In the summer of 1952, Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai traveled to Moscow to meet with Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. The two communist powers were allies, but the Korean War had taken an unexpected turn. 2 years earlier, China and the Soviet Union had supported North Korea's invasion of South Korea. However, the war had become a stalemate, and negotiations for an armistice were deadlocked. Zhou Enlai, acting as an emissary for China's leader Mao Zedong, had the difficult task of discussing a truce with Stalin, who had been instrumental in starting the war. Zhou Enlai's attempts to broach the topic of a ceasefire and postpone prisoner exchanges were met with resistance from Stalin. The negotiations dragged on for months, with both sides unwilling to compromise. As the negotiations continued, the Korean War took a heavy toll. Finally, after 10 months, an armistice was reached. The fighting stopped, but the war never officially concluded. Today, the Korean peninsula remains tense, with North Korea's nuclear threats and human rights abuses. However, the armistice allowed South Korea to flourish, becoming a stable democracy and economic powerhouse. The situation in Ukraine today shares similarities with the Korean War. A ceasefire is desperately needed to pause the violence and pave the way for negotiations. Lessons from the Korean War can guide us in resolving the Ukraine conflict. First, a combination of military pressure and diplomacy is crucial. Second, involving neutral mediators, like the United Nations, can be beneficial. Finally, future assistance and support should be tied to Ukraine's willingness to make concessions. Just as the armistice brought peace and prosperity to South Korea, a similar outcome in Ukraine could be a victory for all.